Hello, my name is Jim Bennett. I'm the director of the National Center for Religious Freedom Education, and I'm happy to be joined today by Timothy Suh. He's an intern here at RFI, and so Timothy, before we get started, why don't you just take a few minutes here and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Timothy Suh. I'm a junior at Georgetown University, majoring in government and minoring in economics. I grew up in California, Orange County specifically, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Jim.
Absolutely. No, Timothy, this is actually a conversation we've had before when we were talking about you joining RFI as an intern, and the question I remember asking you is, with all of the things you could give your attention to, and you've had congressional internships already, you've worked in different offices, so you've got these varied interests, but my question is, why religious freedom? What about this topic captivated you to the point where you wanted to give this sort of attention to it?
My educational experience, especially in secondary school, was a bit of a unique one. I was educated classically, specifically in a Christian classical school, and I think that has influenced a lot of the ways that I think about education and what I'd like to do with my life. I think I've realized looking around in a city like DC, at a school like Georgetown, people really don't think about something as important as religion and something as important as religious freedom, especially being in America, studying at a university, and I think that these places should be marketplaces of ideas, and sadly enough, I don't think that many people realize that. And for those reasons, I wanted to work in an environment that brings this kinds of freedom and religious thoughts to university students around the world, to secondary school students and primary school students. That's exactly what RFI does, and not just to people who are learning, people who are in education full-time, but people also who are in Congress, in the Senate, in the House, in the executive, and around the world. So for those reasons, I wanted to involve myself in a group like RFI, which does all of those things.
Yeah, and you just mentioned that religion and certainly religious freedom is often a topic that's not really talked about much on our university campuses. From your experience, why is that? I mean, religion historically has sort of been understood as potentially divisive, so maybe we don't talk about it. But it's interesting, in today's culture, religious conversations have almost become awkward. From your experience, why do you think that might be?
I go to a Jesuit school, Georgetown University, and we are supposed to be talking about these things all the time, and sadly we don't. And I think that one of the reasons may be, religion makes truth claims about the world, and there cannot be two truths that apply to everyone that are contradictory to each other. And when you have religion, which introduces these kinds of truth claims, for example, is there an afterlife? Is there not an afterlife? You can't have those two things at the same time. There is no afterlife, and there is an afterlife. And I think because of that, students, especially in my generation, in this kind of culture, in Western expressive individualistic culture, people don't want to step on each other's toes. They don't want to intrude on someone else's fundamental beliefs. Oh, do you think that there's suffering in this world? Do you think you're going to heaven or hell? We don't really want to talk about that anymore, even though these are, in truth, the most important things that we can. And I think for those reasons, even in the university, which I said before is supposed to be a marketplace of ideas, you have people who don't want to touch these topics because it's sensitive. It makes people really think, the core of myself, where am I going after death? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing?
And do you wonder if some of the awkwardness and some of the unwillingness to have those conversations is really a misunderstanding about religious freedom itself? For instance, we're here and you attended this session yesterday, the university partnership program we're doing here at the summit. And one of the things we talked about was that religious freedom doesn't necessarily assume that all truth claims are valid or equal, but it does assume that everyone has a basic human right to be religious, to explore life's great questions, to embrace what their conscience suggests is true, and then to express it both privately and publicly. If you were to go on your campus, and you've actually attended two different campuses, right? On either of those campuses, if you were to ask fellow students, what is religious freedom? Do you think that really you would find much knowledge or an awareness of what religious freedom is? And if not, does that underscore the need for this sort of education?
That's a good question. I would say that people at my school and in my generation today, I think they tend to view religious freedom as just a civil right, something that the government gives you. We do know, though, that religious freedom is not simply something that the government gives you. Religion really is human. It is inherent to humanity. And some would say that it's a right endowed by our Creator, as it says in our Constitution. And I think that there's a fundamental misunderstanding today on my campus where people disregard religion as just another civil right. People can choose to utilize it or not, but it's not really as important as the other rights. But in truth, I think that, as I said, religion makes us human. It allows us to think about our relationship with the divine and express that relationship. And that's not something to be taken lightly.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And so from your perspective, would a greater understanding of religious freedom lead to more justice and more freedom, less oppression, or the opposite? I mean, is this really sort of a way out of some of our social problems that we're currently experiencing? Or will religious freedom actually lead to more polarization or more problems?
Very obviously and clearly, less problems, less polarization, more human rights justices around the world, not just in America. My parents are from Korea. They immigrated to the United States in the 1970s and 80s. And looking at Korea, they're a war-torn society. They were occupied by the Japanese from the 1910s to 1945. They had to go through World War II, and then they had the Korean War. And if you look at Korea today, the most prominent hospitals and universities were all founded by Christian missionaries. They were all founded by Christian missionaries. And that's one of the examples that religious freedom, understandings that, we should have the right to go out and to express and share what we believe with others. Not coercing others, but showing them, wow, there is a different idea about how we can think about the world and meaning. And look at the result. We have great hospitals in Korea. We have great universities in Korea. So yes, I would say 100% more religious freedom, higher understandings of it produces better results for society as a whole.
Yeah, the evidence certainly suggests strongly that when people of faith are allowed to publicly express their faith, good things tend to happen for people of all faiths and perspectives. Just a couple last questions, and then we'll be finished here. So what would you say to someone that was considering, someone your age, a university or a college student, that was considering attending an RFI program, a student program, a summit such as this? What would be the value of them taking some of their valuable time and devoting it to something like this?
You will really learn some of the most important things. You will understand what really is the right to practice your religion and why it is so important. Understanding that there are people fighting, being tortured, dying every day in countries around the world that we don't see because it's not really publicized, because the media does not like to talk about it. You will learn the experiences of those people coming to an RFI event, working with people who are senior fellows at the RFI, based in Malaysia, based in Europe, based in Africa, based in all around the world, places all around the world, and you will learn from these kinds of people who are fighting for more religious freedom, and they will show you why it is so important. So I would recommend to all students, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whether you're in grad school, you should come to an RFI event.
One final question. So you're here as an intern, again, having already in the rearview mirror many of these experiences we just talked about. If I was to lengthen the shadow of Timothy Suh's life forward, how are you going to use religious freedom in the future? It's a bit of guesswork, I understand, but how is this so vital to who you are as an individual that regardless of where your career and life takes you, this is going to be a part of who you are? How do you anticipate using all of this?
Religion and religious freedom and an understanding of it will continually act as a check on my life to make me remember there are more important things than just my own career, my own glory, my own comfort. There are more important things, and by tapping into that, by giving my life and dedicating my time and energy to those things, I can truly make the world a better place, not in a cliche way, but in a way that is substantial, that is meaningful, that is giving people a right to interact with the divine, to interact with the immaterial, the spiritual, to think about those things and to act upon it. And I think that will stay with me for the rest of my college years, if I go to grad school, when I start my full-time job, and throughout my life.
Well, that sounds great. Timothy, thank you for giving us just a few minutes of your valuable time here today, and we look forward to the rest of your internship, actually, and all our future interaction with you. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. This was fun.
All right.